Hear about it. Talk about it now with Matt Patrick.
KTRH News Time is 6:47. You a coast-to-coast fan here, KTRH overnight, then you know our next guest. Welcome to Houston's Morning News, Stanton Friedman. Stanton, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on.
Well, I'm glad to be on, but especially since it's 25 degrees here and you're very warm and comfortable down there.
We are indeed, Stanton, and it's great to have you joining us. I enjoy your appearances with George Norrie on Coast to Coast. It is just it's a pleasure to have you on as we talk about something that took place here in the state of Texas, Levelland, Texas, 54 years ago. I want to play something for you and then get your thoughts on it here.
There are too many people that saw it, too many honorable people told the same story. Turned their headlights off and turned their ignition off, so the motor died. After whatever it was that left, they could turn their headlights back on and their cars would start.
That was a Levelland resident by the name of Nathan Tubbs, Stanton, and he says that even though a lot of people poo-pooed this thing, the government said it was nothing more than lightning, he believes it was something much more than that. What do you think?
Well, I think he was certainly right. It wasn't lightning. The official explanation was ball lightning and a storm which wet the ignitions. The trouble is when you check the weather records, as a number of scientists have, there wasn't any storm. There wasn't any ball lightning is small stuff, usually a few inches across, lasts for a short period of time. It's a rather odd phenomena. But people here, and there were more than 10 witnesses now at independent locations around Levelland,
right,
which is just west of Lubbock there, almost all of them saw a huge object, I say between 100 and 200 feet long, which is definitely not ball lightning. And, of course, the interesting thing is when the object left, the engine and lights came back on.
Right.
And the sheriff went looking, and he saw one. He got a bunch of calls. This is not a singular event, in other words. There are a whole bunch of people that we know about, not counting all those who didn't report. In my experience, most people don't report their UFO sightings. So it was a typical outbreak of rather substantial proportions. And for those who wonder about such things, 30 years ago, the head of the Center for UFO Studies did a report, fancy title, UFO Reports Involving Vehicle Interference. He's got 440 examples of cases,
wow,
including the Levelland cases.
There's
a report done in Europe. You know, this is all over the place.
And we're talking with Stanton Friedman, if you're just joining us, a nuclear physicist, lecturer, and a guy you hear frequently on Coast to Coast here on KTRH with George Norrie. It is such a pleasure to have you on. All right, Stanton, if you would hang on for 1 second. When we come back, I want to ask you a question. Was this incident, in your opinion, a visitation by extraterrestrials, and are we being visited, or is it the government testing some secret weapons? Your thoughts on that, Stanton Friedman, coming up in just moments.
Houston Morning News with Matt Patrick continues.
We need a law for that? Joining us this morning, Stanton Friedman, nuclear physicist, lecturer. You hear him frequently on Coast to Coast, which you hear every night on KTRH with George Norrie. And Stanton, it's a pleasure to have you on Houston's Morning News. I got to tell you, very excited when I heard that you were taking the time to join us and talk about the UFO incident in Levelland, Texas, 54 years ago today. Now, Stanton, I've heard you enough times to kind of know the answer to this one. Are we being visited by extraterrestrials?
Yes.
And
no question that some UFOs are extraterrestrial spacecraft. Some. Catch that word there?
Yeah, but now you have made you have said or alleged that you believe possibly that the Levelland incident might have been the government testing some kind of no?
No, I don't think so. I
okay.
mean, I just read over, because of this program, I read over about 10 different accounts of what happened that night and looked at the analysis done by the guy with this big study of 440 vehicle interference cases. And I can't see any way that could have been ours. Big object, able to hover, to land on the road, to take off at very high speed, and to suddenly cause vehicles to stop functioning, and which come back on when it leaves. Now, every military group in the world would love to have an object like that, wouldn't they?
Right. Well, that's what I mean. I thought maybe that you would think that they were experimenting with something like that. No?
Well, I don't think so. I think that these events, especially when you got so many people and respectable people, the sheriff was, wondering what are all these calls about. Then he sees it himself. That's pretty powerful stuff. And when you consider that this is like what's going on all over the world, then you have to say, hey, these are from somewhere else doing whatever they're doing. I don't think they're playing games to see, hey, how many cars can I stop today? You know, that's not what I'm talking about. But, yeah, I think no question that there is an extraterrestrial side of this. I'm not saying that every time a car stops,
right.
there's an alien around, you know. But when you look at these good cases, multiple witnesses, similar events taking place over and over again in a small area, then we're stuck. You know, there's no big deal about extraterrestrial visitation. You know, we live in a large local neighborhood. There's 1,000 stars within 54 light years of here. Some of them are 1 billion years older than the sun. There's no big deal about it. And when you look at the evidence from all over the world, look, I've got 5 books that you can see at www.stantonfriedman.com. And I go into the large-scale studies, the details, the scientific evidence.
And there is certainly a ton of it. And if you want to catch Stanton in depth with George Norrie, just tune in Coast to Coast. Stanton, I thank you for your time here this morning, my friend. And again, it is great to have you on with us here at Houston's Morning News. Stanton Friedman.